So, Emra, I know you work with a lot of women and men who are kind of struggling to find out what story should I tell. They know they've been through a lot, they know they've overcome a lot of challenges, but what is the most important? What's the through line in my story? How do you help them discover that?
Well, I think even just from the beginning, for some, we all have a story. There's many that say, I don't really have one. It doesn't have to be the giant stories that have overcome insurmountable odds. We all have a
Like,
story.
you don't have to have overcome stage 4 cancer to have a story.
Yes, no, we all have one. And so it's so beautiful when you actually, I do the storyline above and below the stories. Above the ones, what are those that have been positive? The ones that have built you in a sweet way. And then what are the ones that have been challenging, the painful ones? And when you do...
Can you explain that above? I love that. Can you explain what that is, the above the line, below the line?
Yeah, so above the line is those stories that are the good things that have happened to you from when you were little, throughout your whole life. Below the line are the challenging ones, the ones that were painful, the ones that we think of crush us. But when you look at and you do all these stories and you make a note of them, if you look at them over time, there's a definite thread. There are things that repeat. In that you find you have a voice. Our voice, our stories for impact, whether they're big stories or little stories, whether they're daily stories or an entire life story, it is the stories that give hope to others. Ones that teach, like we're going to be doing here. The ones that we experience, like I've learned something through this, because the below the lines that seem crushing and negative build character. They build endurance. They build wisdom. They make us who we are.
Okay, so let's bring it down. Let's bring it down to ground level, and let's just give let's give our listeners an example. Give me like 3 of your above the line story lines out of your life.
Okay, my very first one, I'm going to just take the little itty bitty years. My very first one, my mother should never have had me in the first place. She was told she would never have children. She married late. And then, whoa, there I was, above the line.
You were born.
It didn't take long, within those first weeks, that she left me for an affair with my father.
Below the line.
Below the line, it seems. And 3 years later, she came and ripped me away, left my only person I knew, my father, to her new marriage, and she was a stranger. My new father was a stranger. Below the line. Because it left me in the years to come without knowing with an orphan spirit. I didn't feel I belonged anywhere. I didn't know that I belonged. I even wondered if I was adopted and did they even care for me. Doesn't matter that I looked exactly like my mother. And yet as an adult, I have learned that those below the lines have actually enhanced the person that I am today, given me fortitude, given me understanding. Did I suffer many consequences? And then much, so as my story goes, there's above and below that. They just continue and continue.
I was thinking about, as you're talking, that oftentimes in life, it's very ironic how pain and joy are often side by side at the same time. And it makes me think of the same weekend that my son graduated with high honors from high school was the same weekend my son-in-law committed suicide. And I remember the feeling of being at that graduation and thinking, I was so proud of my son, but at the same time, my heart was so grieved at the loss of someone my daughter dearly, dearly loved. And so you can even experience it above and below the line at the same time.
Yes.
But again, so the idea is we kind of map out the stories of our life, and we realize that even in the dark, below the line areas, that there's a thread of hope and a thread of character and growth that's being woven in our lives.
Absolutely. And if I look at all my stories, I see from little how my voice was being crushed. how I was silenced. And I have many stories to that end, and I'm sure over the months of us being together, we'll pop in with our little stories that make up this big story that allows me to stand in this time of my life, understanding your voice, the power of your voice, what happens in the journey to find that voice. And what is voice? It's your calling, it's your purpose. It's this thing that you were designed for. So it's all found in story. That's why we're so excited that we are going to be speaking about Story Matters.
Absolutely. It's going to be great. We're excited that you joined us on this journey, and we look forward to having more great conversations with you.